All right, welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. This channel is dedicated to the first acronym in the ADOS. We focus here on the first letter of the acronym A in ADOS, which stands for American. Confederacy is an American form of government. And so I know a lot of us have the misconception when they hear Confederacy, the first thing they like to think about is redneck, or when in reality, Confederacy is an American form of government. So this is week, what week are we on?
Ooh, good question.
I believe week 7.
Seven?
Nevertheless, we will get into it. We'll figure all that out as we go. So we're at the beginning of the Civil War. So we're going to open up this class with the usual readings of the Constitution. We'll let Quiet Water share her screen.
You can see?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so this is Article 1, Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederacy, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility.
Okay. Now, if we can just highlight that first sentence in section 10. All right, so that first sentence, or the first part of this sentence, it says no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. And so again, confederacy, confederation, that's an American form of government. So once the European occupied this land militarily, you can see in their constitution, they're basically saying that you can no longer have an American form of government, which was a confederacy. And so they created a nation. And so nation or government is not American, it's European. American government is confederacy or confederation. And the second most important thing out of section 10 is the fact that you cannot pay a debt off under the current nation or the United States government without using gold or silver. So we can see that the government is fake. The money, which we call Federal Reserve notes or fiat currency in 2021, is fake. And it's because it's not de jure, it's not pure. Chief Quiet,
Okay.
what do you want to build on that? And Chief Akibalan, you want to switch your name out on your screen?
Yeah, basically what you just said in regards to money, there is no money. Gold and silver is the only money that there is, real money, basically.
Okay, what about the confederation, that no state shall enter in a treaty, alliance, or confederation? What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's clear. It's in black and white right there.
What about you, Chief Akibalan? You want to build on that?
I'm in agreement to what both said. I feel like y'all summed
You're
it
kind
up
of
pretty
breaking
good.
up.
I said I'm in agreement to what both of you said. I feel like you two just summed it up pretty good.
All right. So we'll go to the next one. What is it? Article 2, Section 2,
Mm-hmm.
which would be, okay.
Okay, so Article 2, Section 2, the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when
Stop.
called into,
Yep.
I'm sorry?
Just read that part right there, just that first part.
Okay.
All right. What's your thought on that? That the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. What's your thought on that?
In time of war,
Go ahead, Chief Akibalon.
Him, like, he's basically the highest ranking person, just like in a company, he's just like the highest ranking person in the military. Whenever there needs to be some type of military, like advances or anything.
Correct. So let me ask both of y'all a question, because there was a lot of talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Did Kyle Rittenhouse get found not guilty, or did the militia get found not guilty?
The militia got found not guilty.
What's your thought, Chief Akibalon?
I kind of feel like the militia, but also I didn't see how, like, I guess, yeah, you
breaking up.
You're breaking up. You may need to go to another area.
Sure. I can't hear you for sure.
All right.
Hello.
Yep, you clear now. All right. So the reason why I asked that question, did Kyle Rittenhouse get off or did the militia get off? Because if we remember last year in 2020, the commander-in-chief was Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was going back and forth with the governor of Wisconsin, telling him if he doesn't get his, if he didn't get the city of Kenosha under control with the National Guard and his sheriff and different police agencies, that he would handle it. And so a lot of us are ignorant to how this government operates. When Trump said that he would handle it, that means that he's directly in control of the militia. And so Kyle Rittenhouse is a member of the militia. And so that's why I asked that question. Did he actually get off or did the militia get off? And so I too agree with Chief Quietwater that the militia got off. Had they found him guilty, again, this bird is not going to eat off one of its own wings. The militia is the first line of defense for the United States government. It's a dragon that we're walking on the back of every day. And if 2020 wouldn't have happened, we would have never seen that dragon show his head and blow flames out his mouth. And
Right.
a lot of us have went back to sleep with what we saw in 2020. Chief Akibalon, you think you can go ahead and build on that now? You in a good spot? You're on mute.
So can you repeat what you said? I didn't hear the last part.
Okay. If you want to build on the question, do you think Kyle Rittenhouse got off or do you think the militia got off?
Oh, the militia. I just feel like that he was probably sitting here for him to travel across state lines and not get caught with the gun that he had and everything. And just traveling across state lines as a 17-year-old, that is already crazy. But you have a legal weapon, so it's like he was sent. Like I said, I feel like he was just sent there to help out. And now there's someone, I forgot who it was, but they're offering him like a job, basically.
Okay. As long as we understand why, because a lot of us think it's racism. This is not racism. This is military occupation. He did exactly what the commander-in-chief told him to do. You want to go to the next section?
Mm-hmm. It's Article 6. Okay, here, right? Article 6, second paragraph.
Correct.
Okay, the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding.
Okay.
And so that basically goes into what we've been doing these last weeks, is reading treaties And treaties just being the supreme law, the highest law of the land. And that's just something that I think everyone needs to know.
Correct. I agree with that as well. You can't know the American story without reading what happened on the land. And it's just interesting to me why nobody even refers to treaties or actually educates us or schools us on treaties.
Right.
Your thoughts on that, Chief Akibalan?
He's having some technical difficulties.
Okay. Yep. So that's a clear understanding of why we read these treaties. We really want to know if your grandparents were buried in this land, if your great grandparents were buried in this land, and if your great great grandparents were buried in this land, why are you embarrassed to be an American?
Right.
You got 3, 4, 5 generations buried in this land, and you have people coming over here, first generation immigrant with immigration papers, and they're basically claiming to be you. And the only way they can do that is because you don't know what happened on this land. You're getting your history from television or social media or book.
And indoctrination with education. I mean, that's where the base of it is. It comes from early on, 4 or 5 years old. You learn from what they want you to know, not the truth necessarily of what the storyline is, but definitely indoctrination of the education system.
All right, Chief Akibalan, are you in an area that you can that you want to build on this about the treaty being the supreme law of the land? You're muted.
Can't hear.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, this
We
is
got you now.
ridiculous.
We can hear you.
I can't even see my screen now, so I can't even see what's on what's being shared.
Okay.
Okay, maybe you can log out and maybe come back in.
Let me try to close this and come back in.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna attempt to share my screen and we'll jump right into what we're going to be doing today. Let's see. Let's get right into this. Let's make this bigger. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen, Chief Quietwater?
I can, yes.
All right. So this is in the city of Savannah. So we're going back to the military buffer state, which is also known as the 13th colony, the last colony to be established. We know that colony now to be named after King George, which is the estate of Georgia. And so what we've been doing these weeks by reading the treaties, reading the American Removal Act, reading the treaties in relationship to the Seminole Wars 1, 2, and 3. The third Seminole War never ended. And so they do put an end date on the third Seminole War as being 1858. The Civil War is supposed to start in 1861. What we're proving through reading these treaties and reading these documents is that if that third Seminole War never ended, then they can't put a date on it. And so this is going to blend into why we're prisoners of war. Those of us that families come out of the Creek Confederacy, which would be the Carolinas all the way over to Louisiana, everything in the Southeast region of North America. We've been debunking the myth that we were slaves and that we were actually prisoners of war. We're also highlighting the fact that no one ever accounts for the European coming across the Atlantic. We've went into the Library of Congress in previous weeks and shown that they were packed on ships by the thousands, and that every European, or what you call white person that is in America, they came on a boat from the 16th, 17th, 18th, and earlier 20th century. They all came on boats, but nobody never accounts for them. So we're going to go right down here. So we're going to see here, Savannah and the slave trade. And we're going to go right here, the weeping time. And we're going to see in March of 1859, Pierce Butler auctioned 436 men, women, and children to offset plantation debts.
Mm.
All right. So we're talking about a balance sheet at this point. We're talking about assets versus liabilities. So this person, Pierce Butler, had more liabilities than he had assets. So he had to liquidate or sell some of his assets in order to pay off debt.
Mm. Mm.
Butler's slaves were housed at a Savannah racetrack where families were forcibly separated. This historic auction represents the largest slave sale in the United States and was called the Weeping Time in consideration of the profound despair. And the reason why this memorial, which sits right on the port in Savannah, you can see the water in the background. There's a memorial or a landmark right there at the Savannah port. The reason why this is important is the most people that were ever sold is 436.
Wow. And that's documented information that they are acknowledging at the port in Savannah.
Right.
So just the misconception of this huge million body transatlantic slave trade did not exist.
Correct. Correct. And so, well, and you hit it right on the head. And what we also want to pull out of this is right up under that, Chief Quietwater. It says this historic auction represents the largest
Right.
sale in the United States.
Wow.
So at the point of 1859, there wasn't even 50 estates established on the land called North America.
Right.
And so they're already admitting that the most people that were ever sold was 436. So again, you are the American. That's what we're trying to tell you. Okay. The only people
It's clear.
Go ahead, build on that.
No, I'm just saying it's clear. This is a public landmark, a public display, and it's in black and white. It's just clear, like why go with another narrative that just totally is the total opposite of what really took place. And like I said before, it just goes back to the indoctrination of us as young, as young as 4 or 5 years old, learning about slaves and, all of that. But the truth is, we've read the treaties, we're reading this, we're seeing real life landmarks that they're displaying. It shows that the largest sale of slaves was what, you say 437?
Right here, if you look at my cursor, 436.
436. Wow. Interesting.
Now, if we look right here on the next column where it says French slaver at anchor in the West Indies, it says European slavers transported approximately 300,000 African captives and 25,000 seasoned slaves to the American colonies from 1619 to 1775. So let's take 1775 minus 1619. So that's 156 years, right? All right. So we got 156 years, and we're going to add 300,000 plus the 25,000. So that's 325,000 divided by the 156 years. All right. So when you divide that in, that's less than one person.
Wow.
Per year. Just doing the math.
Right.
Let's make sure I'm doing it right. 300,000 plus 25,000 is 325,000, right? And then if we subtract 1775 from 1619, that's 156.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me what you come up with. Make sure my math is not off.
I'm sorry. I gotta pull up my calculator.
Well,
What did you say? 325?
325,000. So what it's going to be 156 divided by 325,000.
So that's 2,083.
Okay. So each year you're talking about 2,000 people
Mm-hmm.
were being brought from the continent of Africa.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind, nobody's accounting for the number of Europeans that
Exactly. Exactly.
So who really was on the mid-Atlantic slave trade?
The Europeans. As we proved that a few weeks ago, there's actual images of them in cages.
So anything else you want to build on this? Based on these, what, the weeping time and the French slave?
I mean, it's clear. 436 was the highest number of slaves that were sold at that time. It's clear, it's in black and white.
And if we read this, you want to read this top portion up under Savannah and the slave trade where it says, although slavery was illegal. Well, I'll do it.
Can you make it a little bigger? It's like a shadow on it. It's hard to. Okay. Although slavery was illegal when the colony of Georgia was founded, it was a well-established institution in other American colonies. Settlers were confronted with economics to compete with slave labor. Carolinians produced cash crops with slave labor that significantly undersold commodities produced in Georgia by freedmen. South Carolina planters provided the first slaves that arrived in Georgia. Other Georgia settlers soon requested permission to own slaves. By 1748, some 350 slaves worked in Georgia, but officials took no action against their owners who violated the law. In 1750, the Georgia trustees resisted the legalization of slavery, but economic pressure forced a reversal of policy.
Okay. So we can see right here that they were able to undercut the cost of doing business with having, they're using the term slave. In reality, what we understand, we know this is a military buffer colony. So actually you were under military occupation. So what they're calling slavery, we have to understand you're being occupied by the militia. Out of that militia comes slave patrol. Out of that slave patrol, then you got bounty hunters. So you got layers of armed resistance against you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to back out of this real quick. Okay, there we go. All right, so my screen was too large, actually.
Recording.
All right, so I couldn't actually, I had my screen full, so that's why I couldn't see that you were asking to come in, Chief Biko. But we do want to build on this. Now that you're in here, what we were building on is the weeping time right here. And if you read the weeping time, it says in March 1859, Pierce Butler auctioned 436 men, women, and children to offset plantation debts. And so that's a balance sheet. As I was explaining earlier, you have liabilities, you have assets. So Pierce Butler had more liabilities than he had assets, or he had more debt than he had assets. And so what he had to do was liquidate some of his assets in order to pay off debt. All right, it says Butler's slaves were housed at a Savannah racetrack where families were forcibly separated. Here's the key. This historic auction represents the largest slave sale in the United States. So the largest slave sale was 436 people. You want to build on that?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the largest slave sale in United States history, then it's no way in a accounting term that we can have 13 million Africans. If that's the largest that they were ever able to do, as far as getting them off the boat straight to selling them into plantations or into prisoner of war camps. So it's unrealistic for us to think that from this 436, let's say, men and women, came 13 million after that. Like, it's no way possible. And we kind of touched on that earlier in some of our earlier videos where we showed pictures and highlighted who were the actual slaves, because we had those documentations, we had those pictures showing the Europeans were the ones packed on those boats. And believe me, I know just from one of those pictures we saw was more than 436 people on that boat.
Right.
So just to kind of get a visual interpretation of what we're talking about, is no way you can tell me that if this is the largest amount that in US recorded history, then you can say there's 13 million of us came over the Atlantic Ocean to this continent. There's no way possible.
Correct. And I'll read this second column right to the right of that. We were just building on this, where it says French slaver at anchor in the West Indies. And it says European slavers transported approximately 300,000 African captives and 25,000 seasoned slaves to the American colonies from 1619 to 1775. Now, if you add, Chief Biko, 300,000 plus 25,000, you're going to get 325,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you subtract 1775 from 1619, that's 156 years.
Correct.
So if you want to do the math, if you divide 156 into 325,000, and you tell us the number you come up with, so we can know how many African slaves per year were brought over.
And that was 156 years?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So that's about 2,800, and since we know, well, back in the day, they was trying to count us as 3/5 a man, but we gonna make sure we whole in this point. So we got about 2,834 African slaves a year.
Okay. And so if you want to build on that, because we're looking at a landmark and we're looking at a memorial that is in the city of Savannah, right on the port. You can see the water behind this memorial. So you just did the math on it, and the math tells a story. 2,000 people came over per year. We know that it was more Europeans than that on one ship coming from Europe.
Correct.
What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's right in our face, people. What they say, numbers don't lie. If we want to go to the accountant of it, it's no way in hell. Okay, again, 2,084 Africans a year. And 325 is what they're saying on this thing here. But you're telling me that the largest amount ever sold was 436? Again, something
That's crazy.
Something isn't adding up. The math ain't right.
That's an extraordinary lie.
Extraordinary lie. And the approximate is approximately then. Okay, because I'm like, these round whole numbers show are trying to make it easy for them to account for people. Hold on. You can't have 25,001. You got to be 25,000. So you can already see they're approximating. So that in itself shows like they really don't know, or they do know, but they're trying to make up numbers to
Right.
a narrative, a certain picture. But yeah, man, I don't know how you can argue with this.
I'm gonna back out and let you. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and we'll flip it around. So that's where we are right now. We opened up and did the Constitution. as we always do, and then we jump straight into the Savannah and the slave trade memorial that is in Savannah. And I'm gonna pass the mic to Chief Biko and Chief Quietwater at this point. So I'm gonna stop sharing.
Great build so far. I already know just off of that in itself. Share this part here. So what we wanted to do pretty much this week is set the stage of the secession of the Civil War, pretty much identify the players in that war, and pretty much why. I know prior we were discussing, of course, military occupation, showing how pretty much if we just go back a little further than that, we saw who we were contracting with during those first two treaties, Treaty of Moultrie Creek and the Treaty of Payne's Landing. We saw we were contracting with a rogue military. Those treaties weren't valid because they weren't with the government, the U.S. Government. We saw that within the Constitution. That's why we read it every week. So if we already see that power dynamic, that in itself should kind of lead us to say, okay, there's a power dynamic going on between the Europeans on this land. Both of them pretty much can't be one without the other because they needed that military arm to secure the land. But now it seems, again, that military arm has become rogue. They're like, you know what, we did this ourselves anyway. Why would we even, if you're trying to do pass these certain laws that we're not approving of, we're just gonna separate. We've already established the land, we already did this. Why do you think we can't separate? So I want to identify like certain key players. Again, that would be the Union. That would be the coup d'etat, basically, of the military branch, which would take our name as the Confederacy. And then we also know we had our family members to the west of the Mississippi who sold us out as well. You have us, those who never went west of the Mississippi, and then you also have those enslaved Africans. That's why we was trying to paint that picture in that first image there, just depicting it wasn't a lot of Africans on this land. It wasn't at all. It couldn't have been. Again, we've already just explained the math. So it's pretty much what we want to do right now before we jump into any secessions. I think anybody want to add any points or anything, or pull up like a specific map for reference? I'm gonna kind of just jump between a few here.
If you could make that bigger so people that are viewing it can actually,
For sure.
they can see. Boom. So you can, yeah. So you see Military Department of the East.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see Military Department of the West, and pay attention to the way the European is learning America. They're considering anything on the other side of the Mississippi West.
Right.
And then we see Texas has its own military department.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Military Department of Utah. You got the Military Department of New Mexico. You got the Military Department of Oregon. And the Military Department of California. So this is the ground floor of what we now know as the United States government. The words are going to, I would just, to add on to what you just said, forts, military posts, and all military divisions. That's a good segue into the fort that we can show on this video as well, because we want to be clear, because the Civil War is not confusing, and you itemized it beautifully as far as the groups that are going to be participating in this war. A lot of times people in 2021, they will call America, or they will call the United States government a country. The United States government is not a country. The United States government is just that. It's a corporate fiction government.
Mm-hmm.
The only government form that was on this land prior to the European was Confederacy. So when you understand that, you can see how they've played mind games on us. They've made us think of Confederacy as redneck. And so it's Goes back to last week. It's like they've eaten our souls. They've become us, and they turn around and make you think that you're a part of the 2,000 people that came over for 156 years from Africa, when in reality,
That's not the case.
I mean, the story does not even make logical sense. I
No.
mean, it just does not make sense at all.
Mhm. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And they're doing that for a reason, as Chief Alligator stated, because they're trying to become us. They're trying to become the American.
Mhm.
And so in order to do that, you have to remove the American or make them think that they aren't the real American. And we've seen that throughout history through, again, reclassification at its best. From Negro, we read documents stating Black, Negro, like sometimes they really confuse themselves. I know they have to because they're using so many different names to try to pin to the American that they
Right.
themselves caught up in most instances. But as Chief Alligator alluded to, we're going to show some forts as well, just to paint like a picture of this here. There's enough. Okay.
and all we're doing is just taking our time while Chief Biko gets that fort pulled up. We just want to take our time and clearly get people to understand what's taking place. How do we get to this Civil War? What is it really about?
Right.
Mhm.
And so we can see right here, this is in Savannah as well. This is Fort Jackson. You can actually tour this fort if you ever go to the city of Savannah. It's actually, if you're headed toward Tybee Island, you can't help but notice there's just like forts to the left and to the right. And if your third eye is open, you'll say, damn, this must have been an important area because there's a lot of forts out here. And so now what Chief Biko was about to show is when we talk about taking the trade routes, now we're going to see what an actual fort looked like in that day and time. So you could understand when they took our trade routes, how they set up their military operation to basically choke us off and make us dependent on their operation.
Correct. And as you see here depicted in these photos and future photos that we're about to show, they were heavily armed forts. And again, where on the coast, like you said, Tybee Island, Savannah, these are trade routes even today that we know of. And in order to control anything, you got to control those trade routes. So you can see again, most of these forts are going to be on that coastal area, or at least an area in which a lot of trade is going to be happening. Here's another, looks like a wheel barrel cannon.
So let's take ourselves into commerce. Let's say you got multiple ships coming in. Let's say we got a shipment coming in. We're in 2021. We hear it in our music all the time, but we have to understand. Let's say you got a shipment coming in. Depending on where your boat is coming from in the water, they got a mobile cannon they can roll around, which is the one Chief Biko just showed, and then they got their stationary cannons to knock your ship out of the water. And here you can see, they can see you coming. They can tell what flag you're flying. Yeah, they can tell what flag is on your ship to know whether or not they're gonna rope you off or let you come by. So we want people to see this. This is what Chief Biko was showing when he was showing the maps of the military seizing our trading routes. This is what that looks like in real life.
Correct. It was this one here. Even to the other day. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here just to refresh, re-jog your memories there. As Chief Alligator stated, Savannah Tybee Island, as you can see, this is a trading route all through the coast.
Wow.
On the peninsula. So it wouldn't be shocking if you're seeing a lot of these forts on these areas, because again, this was the trading routes. These were the trading routes. Zoom in a bit here. And again, doing trade with not only the mainland, but also Bahamas, Cuba, the different islands as well off the coast of the country America.
Mhm. And if you can, on that map you got right there, let's just show everybody Europe real quick, just as a reminder. Boom. And so you can see that they plotted out the mathematical trip. If you go from Europe and come straight across, just looking at this map, you can see the mid-Atlantic slave trade was done.
Right.
You can clearly see the formula. They plotted it out. They plotted it out.
They jotted it down. Alabama, Florida, Tuscaloosa.
Wow.
You see, like, and then you can even see it here. They have Alabama. I'm not sure if that says arm, and it's probably saying like what we just showed. The actual
That's
cannons
crazy.
they're going to be bringing over on this particular stone wall. You know, so I don't see too much.
Right, on the coast of West Africa at all.
Right. Right. And so that's kind of going into Moorish history. Like if you look at that, because Morocco would be that northern Africa tip that, right. So we can see that, you know, whatever was going on over there, if you got caught up, then yeah, you could end up being put on the boat with the peasants coming from Europe being sent over here. But we can see that they mathematically plotted how to get from Europe to America. And they had specific landmarks. They wanted to hit New York, Wilmington, Mobile, New Orleans. They already knew where they knew where they wanted to go.
That's the Creek Confederacy. You even have some of our native names. Of course, Tallahassee, we know now Tennessee, but that's an American name. It's to get all of the resources here. And why? Because this is where we are at. We had already established.
Right.
So they're like, okay, we have to control this. We have to control Alabama, Florida. Look how much they got access to the Bahamas, Jamaica, things of that nature.
Wow.
Not too much notes being taken as far as wanting to, set up shop here in New York. This is where all the resources were. This is where all the people were, where all the activities were going on. And again, you can just see that from the documentations here. I'm sure they didn't just put this just because, okay, yeah, we like the weather here. These people are coming from a cold environment. Go back to a cold environment, but this is where all the resources are.
Wow.
You can see this is 1863. So you can tell that they had done their homework.
Correct.
1863.
Correct. A good segue here. I want to show a couple of more documents in regards to the fort, but not just the military or how they captured it with their arms, but also different things, pretty much the tools they used and things of that nature. Bring up some stuff here.
And while Chief Biko was doing that, I would just want to let every American know this stuff is right in our face, people. Like if you're in the Creek Confederacy, it's worth it to take historic tours of these areas. It's like, if you believe you came from Africa, you don't know, you got all this history right in your face. Go ahead,
Right.
Go ahead, Chief Biko.
You're right. Did you have any thoughts on that too, Chief Cartwater?
No, you're absolutely right. Everything is just there. It's obvious.
Yeah.
So we can see how vicious surgery was back in that time. What you're looking at is a scalpel, A tenon saw. Unfortunately, if if your leg got blowed off, they got the bottle of liquor right there where his if you could put your mouse where that, yeah. So basically that was real. When we saw that in if you ever watch an old war movie, when they make you take a stiff shot of liquor and put something in your mouth, yeah, they about to saw your leg off with the tenon saw. And so these are the tools that we used when something happened to you.
Screw tourniquet, stop the bleeding. You screwed that shit. Screwed
Oh, wow.
More things here.
Body hook.
To hold you down, yeah, stop you from moving.
Wow.
Blood bowl, yeah. Tooth extractor.
These different tools, again, we're on these forts as well.
Mhm.
Again, we're on these forts.
So it was almost like a city within the city,
Correct.
for the military. And if Chief Blackcoat was here tonight, that would be great for him to build on this, kind of give us, because he would be looking at a more, I guess, he knows what it looks like in modern day time, but to see it how it looked 200 years ago.
And then make that compare and contrast pretty much. I think this here, we're showing some more pretty much weaponry and tools they used.
Right, to stuff the gunpowder. So what you're looking at now is the tool when you stuff that cannon with that gunpowder.
Yep.
That's what those are.
Pretty much storage area as well for those tools and other things. It's probably a barrel full of gunpowder. I believe this might explain something there. This is one of two identical powder magazines built during the initial construction phase, 1808 to 1812. Confederate forces used these two rooms for prepared ammunition storage. To protect the magazines and their contents, Confederate engineers erected a barrier of railroad iron to shield each of the doorways.
So this is at the beginning of the first Seminole War. We can see they were already stopping trade as early as 1812, 1808.
Correct.
Wow.
And this just pretty much further, I mean, the evidence at this point is inarguable as far as military occupation. We're seeing how long the battles have been with us, with our people, as far as, making sure they're in control of the resources, everything, making sure we're concentrated to one area. Everything is pretty much rhyming at this point. Everything is rhyming. Everything is making sense. Everything should be as clear as day that we're under military occupation. Because as Chief Alligator stated, who were they fighting during this time? Us. They were fighting our people for our land.
Do you believe it's inarguable when you make that statement? Do you believe, of course you just made that statement, but Chief Quietwater, Chief Biko, you feel like nobody can give it, you can't argue proof of claim. Like,
right.
You got proof of claim, you arguing, you're just putting on theater, but you really feel like we have the proof that we've been showing over this last 2 fiscal quarters that, would you say you were 100%?
I would say 100% for sure. I mean, we read treaties, we've seen images, we're looking at images. I mean, 100% is inarguable.
Yeah.
Now, if you can go, okay, right there where it says Savannah Gray Brick, there's a great history lesson. If you go to the oldest Black church, which is also in Savannah, areas of Savannah that are built in gray brick, those are the areas that we built.
Interesting.
And to this day, they still don't know how the natives of that area were able to make gray brick. To this day, they still don't know how did y'all make gray brick. And so you can see the difference between the colonial side of Savannah, which is going to be like near the waterways. All of that kind of looks like Europe with the cobblestone in the road and all of that.
Mhm.
But then when you go into the prisoner of war or black section of Savannah, you're going to see that gray brick and all the infrastructure or all the buildings.
Mhm.
To this day, they don't know how we constructed that gray brick.
Wow.
Which further show that we were in control of what we were doing. We were building, we were making, the material to build. So, because this was our land.
Not only just making stuff that lasted, the test of time.
Right. Centuries, right.
And that rhymes with Africa. Now, when they look at Egypt and say that to this day, they don't know how certain stuff was built, it's the same thing over here.
Mhm.
Have to start honoring our bloodline. And I threw that in because, first thing comes to our mind is, they say that about Egypt. Well, they say that about Savannah too.
Right.
Correct. And I want to say the oldest pyramid is in America. It's on this continent here.
I've read that. Is that I can't remember where, but I have read that before.
I'm not sure if it's like
up north.
Yeah, something like that.
Or maybe Midwest.
It is in the Midwest. It's up like I want to say Wisconsin area. I'll have to look. That's interesting.
Because I'm sure, Chief Biko, your bloodline goes back to the Carolinas. I'm sure that Charleston and those older cities like that we built, I'm sure it's going to be similar to what Savannah is, that there's stuff that was built by us that they still don't know to this day how we did it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Most definitely. And so, and that even goes back to our point when we're, reading off an inventor every week. We've been making things. This ain't new.
Right.
Right.
We did all of this stuff. We've been, we were never slaves just to come over and pick no cotton. No, we was creating stuff even underneath those type of environments, those prisoner of war camps, creating cotton gins, the wheels, different things that would make our life easier, even though we're currently underneath this gun pretty much. We've always been innovative thinkers and creators and people.
Can you go back to that one image on the fort where you were showing the waterway? I just want to tie in one thing that rhymes with where we are right now in society, because history rhymes. It doesn't repeat, but it definitely rhymes.
Pull that up here. I think it's this one.
Okay. If you could make that big.
Yeah.
So in March of 2020, when the quote unquote coronavirus first came out into the world, I believe it was March 16th or March 19th. I don't know the date exactly right now, but when Trump closed the borders, when Donald Trump closed the borders to prevent the virus coming in on boats, and also what he did was he stopped imports and exports. And what I want people to understand, looking at that port, the same way you don't see any ships coming into that port or coming out of that port at Savannah, that's what happened last year in on the land, North America, from March all the way to the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when Trump comes out with the CARES Act and he starts bailing out all the businesses. Why? Trade stopped.
Right.
And so now here we are where the supply chain is broken now. As of November 21st, 2021, supply chain is broken. There's product that you could normally readily get a year ago prior to this pandemic. You can't get it now. It's on back order. I want people to understand this government is collapsing.
Oh, yeah.
It's collapsing because it was already operating in debt. And when he shut down commerce, import, export for 9 months last year, and fiat was falling out the sky in your mailboxes, and you were getting 1,200. And if you have a business, you were getting whatever you wanted to get. It was wide open. understand what you're dealing with now. The world does no longer want to do business with the Federal Reserve note. And so what's happening is, the world doesn't have faith in the dollar anymore. And so what you're seeing is product is so backed up. Not only is it backed up, but you also have manufacturing nations coming out of Asia. They no longer want to give X amount of product for fiat or for Federal Reserve notes. And so where we are now is you can have financial resources and you still aren't going to be able to get the product. So I just wanted to throw that in because we're at a time under world history and within our 400-year curse, whether you believe that curse or not, we're in a window right now where as a group of people, we have to stand up because this whole fiction that they've created is collapsing right before our face. Y'all want to build on that?
I'll just state that statement that you just made there just shows the value that this fiat has, which is nothing. Like you said, you can have all the financial resources, but you can't buy nothing because the actual resources are stuck at these ports, these trade routes. That's the actual resource. You have all the money in the world, but it's not getting you nothing because what are you trying to spend it on? Those things that's being held up on those ships or being on back order. That's the actual resources.
Right.
So it's not doing anything for you. You can't use it to do anything. It's already not backed by any natural resource. So it's just, again, monopoly money. But as you said, the actual, tangible things, actual products and those type of things are on these ships and on these back orders that aren't coming into these ports. There's a lot of food shortages and things going on, especially on the coast. So it's like, what's really going on? And pretty much explain it. This system about to collapse, y'all.
It is collapsing. It is collapsing.
And it goes back to what we read in the 12 steps every week in regards to us having faith in the government. There's, the faith is diminishing at this point. There is no faith to uphold the government at this point. So, like you said, we are past the point and it has collapsed. It's just a matter of everyone realizing it by the masses.
Right. And the media never talked about this last year. They're forced to talk about it now. Now you're hearing news channels talking about the shortage of supplies. This has been going on since last year. They just didn't want the people to panic. You see what I'm saying? But now that mainstream media is talking about it, then it lets you know, yeah, okay, now you have to admit that it's broken. You can't hide it anymore.
Right.
And then you're dealing with the frustration from the European. He wants to come out and lash out against the American, but guess what? 2020 was an all-time record with gun sales due to the George Floyd and all the riots. So we're at a boiling point. And it's just what is going to reignite what happened last year. It's going to happen again.
Correct.
I want to ask you this question, Chief Vico, because we asked it when we read earlier in the constitutional reading. Do you believe that Kyle Rittenhouse got off, or do you believe the militia got off?
Great point.
With his court case just ending.
I believe the militia got off. I really believe the militia got off. I know they tried to state certain things and try to, navigate away from that, but we read it last week. Pretty much of who has the power to call on the militia, who the militia is for, like certain rights and things that the militia have. And it was like, yo, if you actually charge Cal Rittenhouse, you're actually charging the militia.
Right.
And pretty much biting off what your arm to save face at that point. And they wasn't going to do that. They aren't going to do that. So it was definitely no surprise after reading what we did last week that he walked.
And so we bring it
I agree.
forward into the court case that's about to end now, which is one of the ones that ignited the riots last year, or the uprising. I'm not gonna call it a riot. It was actually an uprising. So when they use the word riot, that's the wrong language. But again, I'll say this, knowing that Georgia is a military buffer state, the McMichaels, they're a part of the militia also. And so, you know, I'll just say this and I'm gonna let it go. It's just amazing to me why sellouts among our people, how are we letting them walk around without embarrassing them? And what I mean by that is the idea that preachers have power and are going to show up en masse in front of a courthouse. I got a question for copper colored people that are the real Americans. Where was your Congressional Black Caucus?
Correct.
Those are the people that actually write the laws and represent you. Why do you still have preachers 60 years later? So you had Malcolm X was a religious leader. The government killed him. Martin Luther King was a religious leader. The government killed him. The Black Panthers, most of them was in prison, political prisoners of war. Political prisoners. Why is it 60 years later? Why is it that we still have religious leaders showing up as if they have power? They don't write any laws. So it's like we're still out of balance with nature. And it's embarrassing at this point. Y'all, what's y'all thoughts on that? I just think it's embarrassing that you got preachers down there and not your Congressional Black Caucus. They haven't done anything for you. So it's like they're still hiding under the table since January 6th, when they built the hanging station in front of the Capitol and was looking for them.
Why is it? Because again, they're the enemy as well. They're the enemy as well. They don't want this system to fall as much as the European. They don't want this system to fall as much as the European, so they're going to do everything that they can to, you know, stray away from acknowledging anything regarding that. This shit, once they go, because they know where they're going back to, they going straight back with us, and they know they're going to get their ass dogged the fuck out. Plain and simple like that. It's almost like that house nigga mentality or something. Well, shoot, I like my position in this house, so I'm gonna make sure master is okay. I won't do nothing to hurt him, because I ain't trying to go back out there with them. Because I already showed my true colors. I know y'all gonna treat me bad as the European, but at least I'm a little more comfortable. That system, once this system does go down, that title shit ain't gonna matter. You being, you know, secretary of Georgia for 15 years, shit, since the inception of the Congressional Black Caucus, that's not gonna matter. That's you doing all that hooting and hollering, but we ain't had no change in those 50 years since you've been in there. So you probably don't even want to mention that.
And it's the play that's embarrassing, because these people are in their 80s and you keep playing, you keep running the same play. Like, these men can barely walk, and it's like how do you, Chief Quietwater, what's it like? To me, it's like, okay, so we going there. Okay. So we going there. Okay.
No, my thought is the same thing. I mean, they're bringing these preachers that it's a weak move. I mean, it's a weak move. These people
do not work for us.
They do not. They work against us.
So let's see
on every level.
So let's see something right. Oh, go on the About Us page. If we can scroll down real quick. We're on the About Us page, but okay, here we go. Since its establishment in 1971. 1971 should be a critical year for everybody under this government. Why? Because the same year that they gave us a political body to represent us, they also took the money out of the system.
Correct.
With the Gold Standard Act.
Correct.
Okay, so since its establishment in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus has been committed to using the full constitutional power, statutory authority, and financial resources of the federal government. Here's the key, y'all. Can you highlight this? To ensure that African Americans and other marginalized communities. Now that is an accounting term, and I want to say this real slow for our people. Think of an expense sheet, like you have your light bill, your water bill, your gas bill. So what the Congressional Black Caucus is saying is, yeah, we say we the Black Caucus, but we don't just represent specifically Afro-Americans. We also are going to represent gays, handicaps, European women, immigrants. That's what the other marginalized community is. Now, can you pull up the Asian caucus and the Hispanic caucus real quick and go to their about page?
Definitely.
Because we want our people to see these people should not even be walking in public at this point. But it's because we don't know. And we'll get into the reading of the Inventor and everything, because we started it up a little bit late today. But this is a great tie-in, because this is the greatest secret, is to just keep us deaf, dumb, and blind. Most people don't even know there is a Congressional Black Caucus.
I'm trying to pull up this one. I just want to about. It's okay. Here we go.
All right. Okay, so this is for Asian and Pacific Islanders. Now, okay, so the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus is comprised of members of Congress of Asian and Pacific Islander descent, and members who have a strong dedication to promoting the well-being of Asian American and Pacific Islander community. So they're itemized. They only got 2 groups that they're looking for. So when they go into the business meeting, they're accounting for what percentage of resources are Asian Americans getting and what percentage are Pacific Islanders getting. They don't have this in other minority talk. I want y'all to see this. Now, currently chaired by Congresswoman Judy Chu. You see the lineage connection? She's Asian. Has been addressing the needs of the AAPI community in all areas of America since it was founded in 1994. So this caucus came after ours. It specifically fights for Asians and Pacific Islanders. Meanwhile, our caucus established in 1971, these niggas representing everybody. How you representing everybody when the Asians and the Pacific Islanders representing themselves specifically? This is an accounting problem. This is what I'm trying to get y'all to see. These people can't count. You got people in the room doing business for you and they can't count. They in there talking about Lord, and well, you know, the Lord want us to give everybody. That's not how you do business. Y'all want to build on that? Man.
Just 1994, that's not born. They've done more shit in their 27 years than our congressional caucus has in their 50 years.
60 years, right.
You know what I'm saying? And
it's embarrassing.
Yeah, we see the proof with the Asian hate bill that just passed.
Yeah.
Don't have
and that took no time to pass. Something happened on Friday. That bill was passed the next Friday, before the next Friday.
Correct.
You're laughing, but it's really a crying matter. And let's look at their purpose. See, we're talking about being on code. Look at the purpose section. To ensure that legislation passed by the United States Congress to the greatest extent possible provides for the full participation of Asians and Pacific Islanders and reflects the concerns and needs of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Do y'all see the problem, people?
Yep.
You got another caucus that came after your caucus and they only rep for their people. Your caucus repping for everybody, and you wondering why there's a school to prison pipeline. You wondering why you've been gentrified. You wondering how there was a 94 crime bill. These people aren't working for you. You want to go to the Hispanic caucus?
Oh yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
We need to see this. Yeah, this is embarrassing. I'm gonna say this. These people need to be egged every time they come out in public. Like,
No,
at this point, like, because you're disrespecting our minds. The fact that you come out and you're not even specifically you're not how. We're showing you, you're looking at it right now. These people are not fighting for anybody. If you ain't specific Islander or Asian, they basically telling you, you need to go down the street. What's your thoughts on this, Chief Quietwater?
I agree. Everything that you just said. The Congressional Black Caucus is just a joke. They do nothing.
All right, so here we go. Now we're looking at the Hispanic Congressional Caucus. So they always talk about black and brown. They always throw in these adjectives, black and brown, black and brown. All right, let's see what their caucus talking about. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus was founded in December 1976. So 5 years after ours was founded, they got theirs. As a legislative service organization of the United States House of Representatives. Today, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is organized as a congressional member organization governed by the rules of the U.S. House of Representatives. Here we go. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus national and international issues and crafts policies that impact the Hispanic community. They're specific in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
The function of the caucus is to serve as a forum for the Hispanic members of caucus to coalesce around a collective legislative agenda. It says nothing about other marginalized minorities, correct?
Nope.
Do we see the problem?
Shit, you're not specific, man, and that's why I said they don't want this system to fall.
Right.
They have nothing to fall back onto, and it's their fault because they're not specific in getting us anything we need. They're not specifying, they're not saying African American community. Here, they're not even using the color, they're not even using Black community.
Right.
Look, even if they want to specify Puerto Rico, Commonwealth, or Northern, like they're specific in what they're trying to do.
Right. And so now I just want to throw in what you just said on top of that. So when you hear the media talking about black and brown, that's a lie. You're looking at their caucus website. Their caucus don't fight for no Black people.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing. So it's a lie. But every time you get people who look like us on TV and they talk about Black and brown communities, that's a lie. We're looking at the About Us page of this caucus. These people do not fight for Black people.
Correct.
Oh, it's horrible.
What's your thought on this, Chief Quietwater? We've looked at 3 caucuses.
It's obvious. It's right there in black and white in our face that everyone else specifically represent their people, specifically in writing in black and white. And we clump everybody in up under ours with marginalized groups that include everybody. And so, and like you said, with that black and brown term that they always have to throw out there, they just use that so loosely when they're not doing that. Yeah, they're brown, but they definitely are not including us.
Right.
They ain't saying black and brown.
Correct.
So
they are very intentional of what their end goal is and what their intent is.
So is it safe to say when the Congressional Black Caucus goes into the negotiating room, they're basically going in there saying, oh, instead of giving Black people 30% of that, oh no, we'll give that to everybody. Divide that by everybody in here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They just vote for whoever's trying to get something at that point in that particular time, if that makes sense.
Oh.
I need an extra vote. We got you. We got you. Nothing specific for our people. Look, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to, again, we've seen the difference between the different pages, how specific and have purpose and have a plan. Look at this shit here. Look how broad some
just
of these,
lies.
Yeah. The criminal justice system, eliminating barriers to reentry. Nothing specified to our people. combating voter suppression. Nothing specified to our people. Expanding access to world education for pre-K, but nothing specific for our people. Broad as hell to fit everybody, fit all into one thing.
No, this is embarrassing. We're laughing to keep from crying.
And this y'all people, this y'all, your Ace Boon Coon, this your sister, your family sister right here. President for what, 85 minutes or something?
She belongs in DACA.
Hmm.
Yeah, she belongs in the DACA. It's embarrassing, man. It's just embarrassing. We don't 85% of our group of people don't even know that this political body exists. And that speaks volumes to the work that they've done. 8 out of 10 of us don't even know who this group of people are.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're getting six-figure salaries, and it's like they're hiding under the bed, and you don't even know who they are, and you wondering why you're gentrified. You're wondering why you turn around and look at all the gas stations in any state under this government, and you see all these immigrants running these gas stations, and you're like, dang, what industry do we have? We invented all of them. Why we don't run nothing? Because these people in there, they're not specifically asking for anything for you.
Correct. Should be an embarrassment for them to even walk on our streets, man.
It really should. Oh, go to this one right here. One of the bullet points, the second to the last one, expanding access to capital, contracts, and counseling for minority-owned businesses. What the hell is a minority? We know what a minority is. It's European women, it's gays, it's immigrants, it's illegal immigrants, it's handicaps, and then it's us. It's 6 groups under that term. This is the problem. You don't get itemized anything. This is the problem, y'all. It's an accounting problem. Them people go in there and they're not accounting for you.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Nothing is specified even down to their damn bullet points.
The last one is an embarrassment. Look, promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa. You still ain't got nothing over here. Now they talking about we gonna make sure Africa's straight.
Exactly. Silliest shit.
It's horrible.
Silliest shit I've ever read.
It's real.
Like what?
17 million of us, and you got a caucus that does not fight for you specifically. So we'll go ahead and get into the readings, y'all. This was a good one. We'll go, you know, I don't know how you want to close it out, Chief Biko. Quiet Water, as far as what we did today. Do you want to touch on the American Holocaust known as Thanksgiving before we get into the readings real quick?
Oh yeah, let's definitely touch on that. I know you sent the date there.
Oh, I have it. I know we went over a little long, so we definitely want to make sure we can upload this because we had like hour 24. So what I have here, just a little side note for those that don't know, the American Holocaust, which is now known as Thanksgiving, it actually came into existence as a national European holiday, 1863, which is in the middle of the Civil War. And so we'll touch back on this as we go through the Civil War, but 1863 is when Lincoln actually proclaimed it to be a national holiday for the United States government. And it initially was celebrated in 1637. And the European governor of Massachusetts declared it a holiday, I'm sorry, a celebration for the massacre of the Pequot Nation, P-E-Q-U-O-T. So the massacre happened in Massachusetts, 1637, to the Pequot Nation. And Lincoln picks it up in 1863 and makes it a national holiday. So my question to all the copper-colored people from the land known as America is, do Jews honor the Holocaust?
Nope.
Do Japanese honor Hiroshima and Nagasaki getting blown up by the atom bomb?
Nope.
So why do you honor the American Holocaust, which is known as Thanksgiving? Why do you do that? You're out of order with nature. And you'll try to justify it, but why do you do that? Nobody else honors their slaughter. Y'all want to build on that real quick before we go to the readings? I just think it's interesting. Like, we have to look. I've told my family, I've been like this ever since 1996. Thanks to a man named Chidi Jaja, I was taking an Afro-American history class at a community college, and he gave me this book, Afro-American and European Holidays, A Mental Genocide. And why he gave me his book, I can see now. But yeah, he lit my candle with his light, and it opened my eyes. But we have to get our family to realize, and not progress in society when you're honoring curses that were put on your people. Japanese don't do that. The Jews don't do that. Afghanistan people aren't going to be celebrating the bombing of their major cities. Iraq ain't celebrating the bombing of their major cities where masses of people were killed. Why do you?
Correct.
Yeah, I just think that it's just brainwashed. You know, we get into, we have been just, I guess, just brainwashed. Just, that's all I can say. It's just no rhyme or reason in regards to the decisions that we make to want to be included in this story. It's made up story, you know, and not just face the truth of where we are, where we come from, and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, yeah, anything to be included in his story.
Right.
You know, in his story. And like, man, we grab on to anything, and like you said, Chief Alligator, try to justify it by, you know, we just coming together as family to eat. So you got to be on this day,
right?
You know, like, so what other excuse are you gonna make to continue to, dishonor your ancestry and pretty much continue with the same motion? You're still buying the same food, you're still getting the same stuff, the same sales.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, damn, we need to be a part of this that bad where you gotta make up something just to stuff your faces. You know, like, it's crazy.
They're spirit cooking us, and nobody else gives a damn. No immigrant that comes to America gives a damn about Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year.
Correct.
Because they have a different calendar, and we don't get that. Yeah, just go to your local corner store. You can go to Subway. You can go to any one of these stores that immigrants run. They are open on every European holiday. They could give a damn.
Dunkin' Donuts is open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day.
Hey, we ain't closing.
300, they never close, ever.
Hey, who's gonna do the steps?
I am.
We're a little long.
Alrighty.
Get it all uploaded.
Okay, so I'm doing the steps, 13-week practical program of action for each American descendant of slavery. Number 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Number 2, who established that estate. Number 3, what nation and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position or reparations? They either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, immediately children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3, and field trips to ADOS landmarks in that city, county, and state. Number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Number 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways. Number 8, all businesses need operating cash, spending money with American Black businesses. Number 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making offers, making other groups follow our lead and support our club services, products, and entertainment. Number 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American descendants of slavery no longer have faith in the US government. This is why the financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Number 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about their history on this land. A, have them learn about a Black inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. D, they should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion militarily and culturally. 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land you are claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American descendant of slavery live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter will bring us together for our common cause.
Thank you, Be Quiet Water. Do you want to jump into the inventor for this week, the Chief Alligator?
Okay, I'm going to do Granville T. Woods for a second week in a row. He was born to free Americans. His birth date was April 23rd, 1856, Columbus, Ohio. And he died January 30th, 1910, New York, New York. And this week we're going to do the telephone system apparatus. And that's going to be federal patent number 371241. And that patent date is October 11th, 1887. And he's also known as the Black Edison. And Granville T. Woods has claims to nearly 60 patents, many of which were assigned to major manufacturers of electrical equipment that are a part of today's life. So last week we talked about the electrical railway system. And this week we're talking about the telephone system. When you're talking on your cell phone, your landline, if you still have one, when you see companies like AT&T, Bell South, if it wasn't for Granville T. Woods, you would not be using the telephone.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you there, Chief Alligator. I'll go ahead and do the quote for this week. It's a good segue from what we were discussing as far as trying to always fit into this system. I'm going to read, what's this, quote 10. Negroes do not need someone to guide them to what persons of another race have developed. They must be taught to think and develop something for themselves. It is most pathetic to see Negroes begging others for a chance, as we have been doing recently. Do not force us into starting. Let us come into your stores and factories and do a part of what you are doing to profit by our trade. The Negro as a slave developed this fatal sort of dependency and restricted mainly to menial services and drudgery during nominal freedom. He has not grown out of it. Now the Negro is facing the ordeal of either learning to do for himself or to die out gradually in the bread line in the ghetto.
You're gonna do the legal definitions and the maroon points.
Yeah, just one moment.
Good quote too, because that's right where we are in world history if we don't stand up.
Right.
Okay, so the legal definition is number one, American, a native of America. Number two, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number three, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number four, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number five, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number six, education, an enlightening experience. And then the maroon historical points. Number one, was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number two, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number three, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number four, Maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number five, Maroons knew their European enemy language, defenses, and plans.
Well, shoot, that's it for this week. Next week we'll start on the secessions for the Civil War.
All right.
All right, good class tonight, y'all.